I don't know if you've heard, but we are doing a live show. Yes, TSS World Cup Live on June the 11th at the El Rey Theatre in Los Angeles on the opening night of the World Cup, the night before the USMNT kick off their World Cup campaign against Paraguay. We're absolutely buzzing for it, and I know we are plugging it a lot at the moment, but that's just because we want as many of you as possible to be in that room at the El Rey Theatre. It looks like an incredible venue. It'll be an incredible night. This will be the first live show that we've done in nearly 4 years since the last World Cup. So if ever there was a time to come along and support us and to sample what I think is a pretty special TSS community, now is the time to do that. The atmosphere will be buzzing with it being the opening night of a home World Cup for the USA. We'll have exclusive merchandise. We'll have some special guests. Ryan might even sing the TSS unofficial World Cup anthem, which he's yet to write. Yeah, he better get on that quickly. Joe might do some push-ups on stage. So as I say, it'll be an incredible night. Please visit tssworldcup.com to buy tickets, and we'll see you there.
Welcome to USMNT Weekly on the Total Soccer Show. It's our regular foray into all things men's national team. On this episode, we're looking ahead to the USMNT World Cup roster drop, and we're making our predictions for who is going to make that cut. My name's Ryan Bailey. Joining me today, one of the folks making those decisions on those cuts. Well, not literally, but on this show anyway. Taylor Rockwell, hello.
That would be some pressure, because I felt pressure just assembling my theoretical roster. To get a random phone call and to pick up and have it be like a desperate Poch asking me if Xavier Gozo should be included would be maybe more pressure than I'm able of handling.
I'm imagining Poch picking up his landline phone, twirling the cord in his fingers. Hey, Taylor, how you doing? So have you decided who we're picking?
The extra long one. Just doing some doodles on the doodling pad in the kitchen. Mm-hmm.
His parents telling him to put the phone down and come down for dinner. Oh, it's quite a tableau we've painted. Graham Ruthven, hello, how are you?
I'm good, Ryan Bailey. 22 days until the start of the World Cup. 23 days until the USA's opener against Paraguay. I am actually past the terrified stage now. I'm really quite excited, which I knew would happen. I knew this would be the phase that I would enter this close to the tournament. I think once squads start getting announced, of course the US squad being announced next week, which is why we're doing this prediction episode this week. This is our last opportunity to lock these in when we can gloat, when we get absolutely everything right. Of course, that will happen. But I saw Brazil's very normal and totally hinged squad announcement with Neymar being called up, and Obi-Wan Kenobi announcing the Scotland squad yesterday as well. So I'm excited. Very good.
Excitement all around. Joe Lowery included. Hello, Joe.
I've got the desk in standing mode today. That's how excited I am.
What?
So yeah, this is a real deal kind of show, folks. Let's go.
My God. Is it one of those ones where you push a button and it goes up?
You have to press and hold it, which I suppose is ideal. You don't just want to press it unless there's a bunch of presets. But yeah, I had to strain my thumb to press and hold myself into standing mode. But now that I'm here, I'm loving life. Yes, Taylor.
So the stand-up desk got a lot of questions about. Obi-Wan Kenobi announcing the Scotland squad. No questions. We're just going to blow right past.
Ewan McGregor, Scottish, said things about Scotland. Move on.
Just making sure.
Yeah.
These aren't the fullbacks you're looking for. That never got mentioned in there.
We have the Force.
Do you?
We have the Force. Yeah, we do.
Force of a
For now we do. Until the games start.
Episode 1 Force? That kind of Force?
Yeah. Prequel source. Force even. Yep. About that.
Very good. All right. Plenty to talk about on this episode. We are, as noted, going to make our 26 selection, or what we think Pochettino will make, more specifically, next week. Before we get there, hey, Graham, in about 22 days' time, is anything else happening in Los Angeles?
Indeed there is. TSS World Cup Live at the El Rey Theatre. Really not long at all until we take to the stage there on that night. The night before the USA's opening game against Paraguay at the World Cup at SoFi Stadium. TSSWorldCup.com for tickets. We have some special guests lined up. There will be exclusive TSS merch that you can't get anywhere else. I am buzzing for it. We have our show running order. I was looking at pictures of the venue again yesterday. If you go on the site of the El Rey Theatre, they have a kind of like fly-through virtual tour. It's so cool. Like, so if you are swithering, if you're unsure on whether to come, just go and look at the venue that this is happening at, and I swear that'll convince you to come.
If you're swithering, go see a doctor. Like, don't come see us. You have other more pressing
only if you're swithering for more than 4 hours.
Right. Yes, that's right. Correct.
My favourite Charles Dickens novel opens. It was the swithering of times. It was the non-swithering of times.
You all knew what I meant. It works. Swithering.
Yes, but we pretend we don't, so we can make fun of you, Graham.
Right.
Keep up.
Aren't they a conference team? Swithering Town?
Swithering Town.
Good.
Swithering. That'd be dancing
That's
in
really
the streets
good.
of Switherington tonight. You know that. You know that. Very good. TSSWorldCup.com if you want to come and see us on stage at the Eldorado Theatre. Will Obi-Wan Kenobi be a special guest? You'll have to come and find out. It'll be on June 11th, the opening night of the World Cup. And if you're not on the West Coast, patreon.com/Total Soccer Show is where you get all our extra goodies. All right, let's get to the USMNT roster. As noted, the 26-player roster drops next Tuesday, May 26th. There's going to be an extravaganza on Fox at 3 p.m. Eastern next Tuesday, which will feature what kind of things? I'm predicting fireworks, flag waving. What happened at the Brazil one, Graham?
Jets will fly over.
Eagle
The
screeches.
New York Jets will fly over. What else?
We launched out of a cannon.
Does someone from Star Wars have to announce the squad? Jar Jar Binks? Maybe? Keep the
Maybe.
theme going?
Maybe. Or the little ball-shaped one. What's he called?
What is it?
Oh,
he
BB-8.
called?
George
BB-8, there we
Lucas.
go.
Oh, yeah, Droidicas.
George
Let's get a pair of Droidicas out there, actually.
All right, why don't we get straight into it? What do we think Poch is going to do with his roster? Who wants to start? Should we start with the goalkeeper position? That probably makes the most sense. Joe, is this pretty straightforward, what we think is going to happen here?
I think 2 of the 3 are very straightforward, and this is the least interesting position group of them all because goalkeepers, I'm sorry, that's just how it is, unless you have a great one, in which case I'm very interested. Just to be clear, before I name my third one, Chris Brady, there it is. This is what we think Pochettino will do. I think, Graham, you said it, Ryan, you said it, but just to really iron it out, this is my prediction and Taylor's prediction, Graham's prediction of what we think Mauricio Pochettino will select as his 26-man roster. I think it would be interesting to discuss along the way some things that maybe we would do differently, but the actual locked-in predictions are what we think Poch is going to do. I think Freese and Turner are vying for that starting spot. I would have thought maybe it was done by now coming out of the March window, but Turner continues to be quite good in MLS play, and Freese has maybe regressed a little bit so far this season from what I've seen. Chris Brady, though, has been quite good as well. And if you're looking for a young goalkeeper to be the understudy, because you already have Turner, who's the veteran, and maybe he's the Sean Johnson of this cycle, or maybe he's more than that, I think Brady fits the bill as a young player, and Poch has consistently brought him into camps. Feels like he's maybe got the inside track here.
Okay. And so your third pick was?
Brady. So I have Freese,
Brady.
Turner, and Brady.
Very good. Anyone feeling any different to that, Taylor?
I mean, I think Joe's laid it out well, and I think third-string goalkeeper, especially this time around, seems to be even less important than in the past. At least in the past, it would be like, I think it was Nick Raimondo for 9 straight World Cups. Could be wrong on that. But there was always you wanted a vibes guy in there, you wanted kind of a veteran, or you can go the other route and go with like a youngster who could maybe be the goalkeeper next time round. This time round, I think it could be Brady, it could be Schulte, it could be somebody else entirely. But it does seem like Schulte, despite having 3 caps, which is far superior to Chris Brady's 0. Schulte doesn't seem like he has been like Poch's third-string guy of late. It feels like it's been a bit more open. So I'm inclined to go Brady as well for no other reason than because Joe feels that way, if I'm being totally honest.
No. Graham, groupthink, do you concur?
Yeah, I do. And Brady's kind of part of that blob of goalkeepers that includes Schulte and had included Jonathan Klinsmann, although he won't be included. He suffered a broken neck playing for Cesena, right, that he plays for in Italy. So that's not ideal. We wish him a swift recovery because that sounds serious. But he was part of that group with, I guess, Roman Celentano and Zach Steffen in a previous life, although he's not been in great form this season. And it just feels like Brady in the last, certainly in the March window and maybe even before that, has just sort of emerged as the third choice, and he has been in good form for Chicago. I think Freese is a little bit more locked in as the number 1 than it seems Joe is. I would be shocked if Freese doesn't start the game against Paraguay, just because we haven't seen anything from Poch over the last 4 or 5 windows to suggest that he's willing to make that change, even though it does seem like on club form Matt Turner is in better shape than Matt Freese at the moment. What I do think is a possibility, and I hope this doesn't come to pass, obviously, but let's just say there is a bit of a clangor or a mistake from Matt Freese in 1 or 2 of the games at the World Cup, then Matt Turner is close enough that he could we still might see him at the World Cup, but I think those are 1 and 2, and then a very big gap to Chris Brady as number 3.
Okay. Is Blob the correct collective noun for goalkeepers, just so we've got that in?
That's right.
Right, very good. Excellent stuff. How very swithering
Murder of
of you.
crows, blob of goalkeepers.
That's right. A parliament of Joes. There's so many different ones.
Yes.
Centre-backs. Graham, would you like to guide us through who you think will make the cut for centre-backs?
Yeah, so I have selected 4 centre-backs, looking at my list here. at the top of the hierarchy, I've got Chris Richards, clearly the USA's dominant central defender, and the one player that you would feel good about building around, right? I think he is someone who's come a long, long way since the last World Cup. If this is a group of US players that has improved since then, I think Richards is probably the best reflection of that. So Richards is absolutely making the roster unless injury, and he has picked up an injury recently, but it seems like he's going to be fine for the World Cup, and in fact he's going to be fine for that Conference League final next week, so I'm not concerned about him at all. My number 2 is Tim Ream, and there is a big old question mark over Ream the Dream heading into this World Cup. I fear he has dropped off the cliff edge at the wrong time, but this is not what I would do. This is what we think Poch will do. And I'd be shocked if he's not on the roster, considering how Poch has relied on him since becoming US head coach. And just to clarify, I would also have him on the roster just because this pool is so shallow. I don't know who else you call up at this point, this close to the World Cup. My number 3, and this is an odd one for me, it's Austin Trusty. And it's odd for me because I have just watched Austin Trusty have a nightmare of a season for Celtic.
And win a title, yes, go on.
And win a title, yeah.
While being ever present, go on.
Let's not delve into what that says about Scottish football.
He was ever present, except he was off the field for the last bit, right? Where Celtic had to go and push.
Yes,
anyway.
he gets subbed off. Yeah, he gets subbed off in the tactics-free zone when I think an attacker comes onto the field. But you won't find anyone in Scotland who thinks he's had a good season. Celtic may well replace him in the summer, and even in the final week of the season when Celtic found form, Trusty was the weak link against Rangers when he got bullied by Yusuf Chermiti in that game. And then in the Hearts game, one of Hearts' most successful tactics in that game was to allow Austin Trusty to have all the ball that he wanted in that match, because they knew that, and he was playing on the right side, which is not where he would play for the US, but they knew on that right side he just is not good enough to punch passes into central midfield. So that's my context for why I find it odd, but Trusty impressed in the March window, and different players perform differently in different teams, and having Trusty on the left side, I think, rather than the right side when he plays for Celtic is clearly a better fit for him. So he makes my my centre-back pool. And then my 4th choice is, and I think this is a choice between Mark McKenzie, Miles Robinson, and possibly Noki Banks, considering what's happening with his decision over the interest around Germany. But McKenzie, I don't have any information on Banks to suggest that's moved forwards, or I haven't read anything that suggests that I'm an ITK. That's not really what I do. I haven't seen any reporting on Banks, and McKenzie was in the March camp. So it's sort of a case of he's already sitting on the seat, and I don't see anyone else with a strong enough case to take him off it.
Yeah, Banks is the wild card here, right? I think there's a couple of other things that could happen around the fringes of this position group, but Richards will be there, assuming he's healthy, and it seems like he is. Graham, you got to that well. Tim Ream has played the most minutes of any player under Mauricio Pochettino. He's going to be there. What his role is, though, could depend on Noki Banks. And I'm not going to spend a ton of time speculating on that because we just don't know. But Jeff said it yesterday, Taylor. He's still got USMNT in his bio, which I think does genuinely mean something. I would imagine that like Banks is either still getting calls or has been getting calls from US Soccer, because why would you not? And I think if Banks is there, I bump Trusty off of my prediction list. Graham, I'd imagine you would do something similar, but we can't assume that he's going to be there, and I'm going to hedge and be the safe option here. Well, I'll be right if Banks isn't there, which makes me happy, or I'll be wrong but happy that he's there, which will also make me happy. So I'm going to go that route, and I say I've got Richards, Ream, Trusty, and McKenzie, the exact same 4 pure center backs that Graham does.
All right, Taylor, your thoughts?
Why, Joe, did you go Trusty over Robinson? Was it fitness?
I think Trusty fits the left-sided center back role better. He is a better distributor, which is weird to say given everything Graham has said. But he was legitimately, I think, quite good in possession for the U.S. in the game against Uruguay back in the fall, and then again in that game against Portugal that he starts. And I think was quite good kind of all around in those couple of games. Uruguay weren't trying. Portugal were maybe trying a little more, but still not that much. But Trusty is more natural as that left-sided center back, and why I wanted to bring him especially is because I don't trust Tim Ream to make it through a whole tournament and to play a huge role. And I think Trusty is more comfortable deputizing for Ream or just starting over him than Miles Robinson is. And that's before you even get to the fact that Miles Robinson isn't 90 minutes fit right now. Still a few weeks, but that starts to make me nervous. I don't think Miles Robinson would be a bad or wrong choice, though, Taylor.
What isn't Mark McKenzie left-footed?
Mark McKenzie, I believe, is right-footed, but is a decent distributor with his left.
Okay. I think I had in my head that he could be the left back and
he can.
Left center back and the right center back. But either way, when I broke down my roster, there was basically I forget my exact numbers, but I think I had like 17. 17 out of the 26 I felt like are written in ink. That includes like maybe some players that might be on the peripheral for people. I'm less confident about 4, but still pretty confident. Then there's the gotta be someone category, and that's what we're in right now.
Nice.
That was the third string goalkeeper, and then reserve center backs. And I think it'll be Mark McKenzie. I mean, it'll be Chris Richards, Tim Ream, Mark McKenzie. And then I did have Miles Robinson, mostly because I kind of forgot about the trusty performances of late, and it feels like it has been Miles Robinson. But I think I'm inclined to actually switch that based on what you all have said, combined with we do tend to see a player who is sort of preferred because they're there, because they've been reliable, but maybe then there are injuries and maybe others do start to kind of surpass them in the depth chart. And if we're only taking 4 center backs, and that is what I have, I think other previews I saw had 5 or even 6, I think you could talk me into Austin Trusty. But I did have Miles Robinson first.
Very good. Okay. Shall we talk about the fullbacks? Left side first, Joe?
Yes, left side first. I think this is the clearest cut maybe so far, and I don't know that it's especially close. I say
John
that.
Tolkien
And Christopher Lund. Yeah.
Caleb Wiley.
Very much on it. Pochettino has not been shy about throwing wrenches into engines so far during his tenure, so I am bracing myself for something, maybe more than something unexpected to happen, and that's, I think, a huge part of why I'm so excited about this roster dropping on Tuesday. But I have Anthony Robinson and Max Arfston as the 2 left backs. I kind of think it's going to be that simple. I mentioned Ream had played the most minutes of any U.S. player under Pochettino. Max Arfston has played the second most minutes of any player under Pochettino. Part of that is because Anthony Robinson has been dealing with injury since the fall of 2024, an injury he suffered in a U.S. game that fall. Made it through the rest of that season with Fulham, then missed the Gold Cup this past summer, sort of trying to rehab right ahead of this new season. Has only recently kind of got back into playing full 90s again for Fulham, but he is playing full 90s now, and the job is his every time he's around. Yeah, exactly. Scoring goals for real. He's like the least goal-scoring fullback you could possibly imagine, but he's pulling it off. He is going to be the starter for Pochettino. Every time he's around, he starts, and Max Arfston is a player that Poch clearly rates and has elevated into this position, and I'd be floored if he didn't come along to the World Cup. You could see other permutations here. You could see Dest slide over to be the reserve on that spot and bring another right back. You could see someone like Joe Scally in here, and he's not in my roster. Maybe that's wrong. I'm not sure. But I think Poch views it as Anthony Robinson 1, Max Arfston 2, and then I think there's a bit of a gap.
Tim Ream at a pinch?
Dude, I'm so glad we're done with that. What an era that was, Ryan. I completely forgot he was playing left back for Charlotte. Those were good times. They were not.
They were the swithering of times. They were.
Yes, they were. Dickens-esque.
Taylor, any movement on that?
Nope. Jedi Max.
Cool. Graham?
Retweet.
Retweet, indeed.
Consensus.
How about the right? Is there any more discussion to be had on the right side, the right backs, Graham?
Yeah, I think
Taylor?
there is.
Go on, Taylor. Where are you taking it?
I ended up leaving off Joe Scally. It sounds like Joe did as well, so that was a betrayal of Joe by Joe. But I do think as long as Dest is fit and ready to go, he's back and playing and should be good to go, I think it's Serginho Dest. And then I had Alex Freeman, who we know can also potentially function as like a right center back and a back 3 if they want to go that way. And that's the thing that I thought would be to Joe Scally's strength, that maybe he does offer a little bit of versatility, can be more of a defensive option, but then this season for Gladbach has been more of an attacking option as well. But I don't think he really seemed to cover himself in glory in his recent appearances. He did get call-ups under Pochettino more recently, but all of those kind of felt like they were more of the same from Joe Scally in a U.S. shirt. I mean, I guess we could have said the same thing of Johnny Cardoso, and we would have had him in our squad, but it just feels at this point like Dest is the starter. Freeman can give you a little bit of versatility. My only question for my co-host is, did they have anyone else listed as a potential right fullback? Because that might be... We might be fully in the weeds on the right fullback conversation. That could be an interesting wrinkle when it comes to the roster release. Is Tim Weah listed as a right back, or is he listed as an attacker?
I have him down as an attacker on my list, but it's sort of semantics, right? I think Weah will be in the World Cup roster, and he can play in that role, right? Especially if he's in a role that is not dropping back into the right center back position, like an Alex Freeman might interpret that role or be tasked with playing. But he would be a right back that sort of defends as an outside back, like we saw in the March window, and then pushes forward and actually holds the width in possession. So I think we will absolutely see Tim Weah get minutes on the right side for the U.S. How exactly you want to describe that role is kind of up to you. But Weah's ability to play that is part of the reason why I left Scally off this roster. Like, do you really need, does Pochettino think he needs Dest and Freeman, who I think are locked in? I don't know where you had them, Taylor, in your tiers, which I think is quite interesting. But I think Dest is absolutely locked in, and Freeman has played a ton of minutes for Pochettino and is another one of those guys that's sort of his guy with the national team. I don't think you need those two plus Weah plus Scally who can all play in roughly similar roles defensively on that side. That just doesn't feel necessary to me.
Yeah, I also had those two players locked in. I had Weah as a potential option. He is in my roster just listed as a winger. Another lock that I don't think I'm spoiling anything here that potentially could play on the right side is Wes McKennie. I thought we might see it in the March window. We didn't. And so I'd be surprised if Poch at this point rolled that out in the World Cup, but wouldn't rule it out entirely. And then there's another player who might fit into the right wing back category who I'm not going to spoil. I'm going to leave that one for later. I think Joe might be on the same train as me by the look of his face.
Do we have any, I don't think we do, but I think it's worth mentioning. There are omissions that I think will frustrate, certainly, the internet warriors, but maybe, casuals will be confused by them. And leaving off Joe Scally, who is about to complete, or has now completed, a season in the Bundesliga in which he plays over 2,600 minutes, starts 29 games, scores 2 goals, gets a few assists in there. You're leaving him off to bring in Alex Freeman, who plays 340 minutes in La Liga after that move. And it's worth noting, has had 3 starts in the last 5 games, so that's good. But all of those were full 90-minute appearances. You drop those from the equation, and now he's played 70 minutes, basically. So it's not as though he's played a ton of minutes. To Joe's point, it is basically that he has impressed under Pochettino, I think responded to the coaching and done what's asked of him. But that does feel like one where some folks might be tuning in and seeing this youngster who they don't really know about, and then seeing in the omissions category a player who just played 2,600 plus minutes in the Bundesliga not being included. And that could be the start of the, what is this roster? Why has it gone this way? So I feel like we might have some consternation based on how things go.
Yeah, of all the names we've said so far, Scally is the biggest omission. That none of us have him on the squad. Who knows what Pochettino will do? But if he doesn't make the cut, like we suspect he won't, that if it all stopped here and this was the whole show, Scally would be the biggest omission. I don't think it would be close.
Ooh, are you hinting there might be more big omissions, Joe?
It's possible.
Ooh.
Maybe.
Keep listening then, dear listener. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll move on to the midfield. Join us then. Welcome back to USMNT Weekly on the Total Soccer Show. We are running through what we believe Mauricio Pochettino will put down as his 26-man roster for the World Cup. Taylor, shall we move on to the midfield positions, your central and defensive midfielders? Who's making the cut, in your opinion?
In my opinion, this is another one where, there's one, clearly written in ink, but I think maybe 3 actually written in ink. And the 3 are Tyler Adams, for sure. Then I have Christian Roldan, and I have Tanner Tessman. And Tanner Tessman has been bubble-wrapped to close out the season in France, but I think has played his way into Pochettino's good graces, and I think has had a strong enough season domestically that he'll continue to justify that selection. I also think the injury to Johnny Cardoso opens a pretty sizable door here. I do think he would have been in the squad. Maybe he could have been a starter in some of these games, but as a result, I feel like those 3 names are somewhat more solid. Tyler Adams, the most critical of them all. And then I'm really interested in what my co-hosts will say here. Because these are 2 areas where I had, fully it could be anybody. I won't be surprised. I'm going with what I think Pochettino will do, not what I want him to do. I think it will be Seb Berhalter, and I think it will be Aiden Morris as well.
Yep. I cannot believe we have perfect consensus through 16 players. I never would have imagined that. I don't think this has ever happened.
I said Miles Robinson. I'll stick with Miles Robinson to give us a little bit of variation.
I thought you flipped it. All right.
I'll flip it back just to give us something.
This is blowing my mind. I have the exact same list. I would have had Johnny in this bucket as well. Tanner Tessman is a player that I still haven't been quite sure how to rate with the national team. I think he's probably the starter next to Tyler Adams for the first game of the World Cup, which is great for him, and he's a very capable player. But we're also, seeing reports. Tom Bogert reported for The Athletic yesterday, I believe, that Atletico Madrid made an offer for Tanner Tessman in January. I mean, I think Tanner Tessman today is a better soccer player than Obed Vargas, and if you want to look at it that way, I suppose, then that makes sense. But I don't think of Tanner Tessman as being an Atletico Madrid level player. Maybe I'm way off the base on that. But either way, he's going to be there. He's absolutely going to be there. I think the question marks are not Adams. It's not Roldan. It's not Tessman. I think those guys will be there. You can argue if you think Roldan should be there. And I think you could make a decent argument for that.
And you'd be wrong.
And I think you would be wrong as well, even if it's just a pure vibes guy. Everybody you talk to that's not trapped in the MLS sucks echo chamber, everybody who's interacted, let's put it this way, with Christian Roldan, loves Christian Roldan. This guy's translating for Johnny Cardoso at media roundtables just for funsies. Like, I mean, he's just a guy you want around. And I think he's a capable player. Like, I don't know what defensive midfielder you're looking at that now that Cardoso's off the board, you think, oh, yeah, he should be getting minutes when Tyler Adams goes down and not Christian Roldan. Like, it's not ideal to have Roldan in a huge role at a World Cup, and I don't think he will be. But I don't know where the other options are in here if it's not one of those guys or if it's not Morris and Berhalter, who are all in my predicted squad.
And Joe, I think that is something that as outsiders maybe we don't value as these players, or we don't value as much as we should. These players have to be in camp together for like a full
forever,
month, maybe even more if things go well. And so you do need, and that's not to say you call people up purely as vibesmen. They need to offer something, right? But you do need to look after the culture of the dressing room. And I absolutely think Christian Roldan is a culture guy. And another player in this group that I think is a culture guy is Sebastian Berhalter, who I think makes it on a footballing side for his set pieces and the threat that he gives you from those, and the option if a game's going against you, if he's not starting, you can bring him on and get a route to goal a different way. But I also think he's got that dog in him that Pochettino seems to like, and so I think it feels like he is one of the culture guys that Poch values. So I went for Adams. Talking of another culture guy, I mean, obviously he's just an excellent soccer player, but I watched the first episode of the HBO documentary about the USMNT. And I know these things are designed to lead you to a certain conclusion, but Adams really is a natural leader, and that in itself, I think, makes him completely indispensable. So the way I look at this pool is it's Adams +1, particularly now that Johnny is not in the equation. I know that's a strange sentence to make because he was never really that impressive for the US, but his stock had elevated for Atleti that I do think he's quite a big loss for this group. I had Tessman, I had Roldan, I had Berhalter, I had Aidan Morris, and I also had Wes McKennie in this group, but that's semantics. You know, I suspect I'll hear his name again in this episode.
Yes, very much so. I mean, really, with Cardoso's injury, and Graham, you got to it well, it's not like Cardoso's performances had made him an in-pen starter for this U.S. team, but I think when you factor in how good he had looked, like some of his flashes at club level, and then a competent March performance, half against a really good team, that I think that did more than enough to get him on this plane, I suppose, to Los Angeles. But when you take him out of the equation, who are the omissions here? Like, who are these players even fighting? And I suppose that is the thing that made this quite simple for me. Jack McGlynn is the only one I could think of, and I would love to see Jack McGlynn at the World Cup. I would personally bring Jack McGlynn over either Berhalter or Morris, because I think he just brings that little bit of something different in possession and the set piece stuff. He's a defensive liability, and I think he's sort of aware of that and trying to work on that piece of his game. But especially at this level, that is a concern. But he would be my Patrick Ajiman snow globe player in the spirit of Graham Ruthven. Like that's what I would use Jack McGlynn for. I just don't know if Pochettino is going to. It wouldn't surprise me if we saw him. But if it's not Jack McGlynn that you're fighting over, I think the only other thing you could do differently in this position group is just bring fewer players. You could just not bring all five of these options. You could drop a Roldan or a Morris or a Berhalter, probably one of the latter two, and bring, instead of Miles Robinson or Austin Trusty, you could bring both of those guys. Or instead of Joe Scally, or you could bring Joe Scally and, right? So I think those are things that could happen here. But I think we're going to see at least, at bare minimum, 4 of the 5 central midfielders that we have all put in our squads.
Graham, you mentioned the HBO doc there as well. I've yet to start that. Any learnings from that so far?
I mean, it's just interesting from the point of view of a lot of behind-the-scenes footage. It's very heavily messaged, right? Obviously, it's produced in partnership with the US national team to get that access. But there was a lot of stuff, particularly in Qatar with Berhalter and the team talks and so on, that was really interesting. It just hammered home the Tyler Adams. The first episode is quite heavily about Tyler Adams and his journey as a soccer player and the role that he has in the group. I already knew this, but it just hammered home the standing that he has in that group. He's just so important to them. So it was good. I would recommend it. I've only watched one episode. I think only one episode is out so far, but I'm enjoying it.
Very good. And can you sort of explain a bit what you mean by culture in the team? Is it as simple as, is it vibes? Is it leadership? What do you define that as?
I mean, it's a little bit difficult to explain, right, and define, but I suppose it's the people who make an environment healthy. That could be from a competitive standpoint. It could also just be from on a human standpoint, making the camp bearable and enjoyable to be in. And I think there are a few pillars of the culture within the. That was one of the things Poch. I mean, this isn't a secret, right? He's spoken about it at length. Players have spoken about it at length. That was his primary objective, was to change the culture coming in after Berhalter, where people had got a little bit complacent, and there are a few players who have helped him do that. I might have one in particular who I very much look at as a culture player. He's got lots of tattoos, and I'm a big fan of his. I might mention him later.
Oh, does he have a lupine kind of sounding name, perchance?
Potentially, yes.
Potentially. All right. Why don't we move to the attacking midfielders and wingers then, Graham? Who makes the pool there for you?
So Christian Pulisic, number one. I have some concerns over his form at the moment. I can't hide that. But he is still the USA's most impactful attacking player, and he certainly has the highest ceiling of any attacking player in the squad. So he is obviously going. I've put Tim Weah in this category. We talked about him as a potential right wing back. That might ultimately be his role in this team. It wasn't that long ago that I remember we had this discussion. I wouldn't have ruled out Weah being pushed to the side in this group in a similar way to how Musa has been pushed to the side. I wasn't really sure what his role was in this team when things were shaking out a little bit, where it felt like Poch came out of that first phase of his half cycle and we moved into that second phase post the Nations League semi-finals a year ago in March. And I didn't really know what Weah offered to this team at that time, but I think it's quite clear now he's one of the few sources of verticality in the squad, and he can also operate in a number of different positions, which is really, really valuable in a tournament setting. And my number three on my list, I've gone for the person I just teased, Diego Luna. I think he was one of the first players Poch seemed to really get through to. I think he's an important culture player. I like what he offers as a soccer player. The ball sticks to him, he barrels through tackles. I think he will get game time at the World Cup. The next player on my list, Malik Tillman will go, right? Because he is an established part of the group at this point, and Poch seems to be a fan, and he's been in enough squads that I don't see anyone dislodging him. I think his stock is quite significantly down at the moment. He's not a first-team player for Leverkusen. I went back and looked through his minutes. He's not played a whole lot for them recently. He is a peripheral figure for Leverkusen. And it has been a while since I really felt like Tillman made a meaningful impact in a national team game as well. I thought he had a better... I remember this discussion with Joe, and we each have our own opinions. I thought he had a better Gold Cup.
One of them's right and one of them's wrong.
That's right, yeah. My memory is very hazy of that tournament. But I thought he came out of that tournament stock maybe slightly up. I don't know where I place him on the pecking order now, but I think he's on the roster. I think he's on that plane to Los Angeles. Next on my list, I've gone Gio Reyna. I think...
Wow.
Yeah, after making the exception for Reyna in the last two camps, I would be surprised if Poch doesn't have him on the final roster. I think having come this far already and kind of rolled through the discourse around Gio Reyna, having gone through that, it's now easier to select him for this roster, and so I expect him to be there. And then my wild card pick, I'd say the only wild card pick in my entire squad, because this is a 26-man squad and we have a couple injuries to Big Pat and Johnny Cardoso, there's a little bit more leeway, and so I've gone for Xavier Goso, which it's a hunch. It's based on nothing at all other than he's been really good for RSL this season. There's a bit of hype around him that Poch has surely seen. And I think he plays in a position of need, and his profile is something that the US needs as well, like a dribbly winger. He can play at right wing back, he can play in the wing, he can play as one of the two like 10s if the system goes that way. And so I have got him on my roster.
Okay. Now's the time to debut a national team player, right?
That's it. It worked for Julian Green.
I suppose so. Okay, that's interesting. Taylor, how do you feel about that?
I mean, I see the logic behind it if I don't fully agree, largely because I think with the Gozo shout, he hasn't been in camps. It also feels like a thing that everybody got excited about, and it felt justified, like having a bunch of national pundits saying this guy should be in the team, this guy should be in consideration. Like, he was playing very well and has been playing very well. It still feels a little bit like the shiny new toy that might be an unknown X factor that we don't know yet.
I like
and
shiny
maybe
new
he
toys.
could be the guy, right? And like, I think even Jeff said that yesterday, that it's like he could be the Donovan from 2002. He could be the breakout player who suddenly is like electrifying on the wing, and I think we all want that to be a possibility, and it may well be, but it was between him and Gio Reyna for me, and I did end up having Gio Reyna on my team. I had some of the names that Graham has said elsewhere, so we'll get to them when we talk forwards, but for me, it was Weston McKennie, Malik Tillman, Brendan Aronson, Diego Luna, and Gio Reyna were my five.
Okay. Joe, feelings?
I have McKennie, Pulisic, Tillman, Luna, and Reyna. So the difference there, Taylor, is... Sorry, can you read yours one more time, Taylor? Would that be all right?
I did it fast, didn't I? I had Weston McKennie, Malik Tillman, Brendan Aronson, Diego Luna, Gio Reyna.
Okay, there it is. And so Weah popped up somewhere else for you in the squad?
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. Very, very good. I have what Graham had, except I was too cowardly to put Xavier Gozo in my team, and so I put Brendan Aronson in instead. I don't know what's going to happen here. I do feel pretty confident in saying Weston McKennie will be one of the attacking midfielders. I think we've seen that every time now, basically. I think he and Pulisic are going to start in the half spaces for Pochettino in that 3-2-5 possession setup that he uses in every single game. I think that, which is not bad, by the way. That's just how he does it. I would use those two players there. I think that's where we're going to see them if we're Pochettino. And I think we'll see Tillman as the next guy up off the bench. To go back to that conversation for a minute, Graham, it is funny because I do remember you were higher on Tillman after the Gold Cup than I was. And then coming out of the March window, it seems like I'm much higher on Tillman than you are, which maybe means we're about even, all things considered. I thought Tillman was pretty good in the March window, conducting play, even dropping deeper into a role that I'm not totally sure is his best. But he is one of the U.S. players that came out of that window for me looking comfortable under pressure, looking like he could handle the ball in difficult moments. Yeah, there is the pass that he tries to thread in that does lead to a goal in that window going the other way. But in general, I thought he was quite good. And I think he will play some pretty significant minutes for the U.S. this summer. I totally agree Luna's going to be there. I really do think Reyna's going to be there. It's interesting that we're aligned on that. Pochettino, I think, will bring him to play the role he's playing for Gladbach, which is come and play the last 20 minutes of this game and make something magical for us because we desperately need a goal in a group stage that's likely to be quite competitive. And then I just didn't have it in me to put Gozo on the list for the same reason I didn't put Banks on the list, which is I want to be stoked when it happens, and I'll also be happy to be right if it doesn't happen. So I'm hedging my bets. I think there's a real chance, Graham. I think there's a real, genuine chance that we see Gozo at the World Cup, and I don't have any of the reservations about it that Taylor does. Like I think it would make sense. I think you.
I don't have any reservations about it. I just couldn't shake the feeling that it's like more of a hype thing.
Just watch Taylor. I need you to watch. Just watch. Like I'll make you a comp. I'll make you a 10-minute comp of Xavier Gozo, and you're going to be on the train like shoveling coal into the engines with the rest of us.
We've talked about him a ton. I really enjoyed Xavier Gozo. I will not stand for this misunderstanding is how I'll.
Okay, I don't understand.
It's simply that he hasn't been in the plans, and if we are going with what we think Pochettino will do, like if it is Gozo, then I think it might not be Reyna, which I think is its own can of worms that will be open. But like McKennie is going to be there. Like I have Weah and Pulisic. I just have them elsewhere. I had Luna. And then Brendan Aronson seems to have become a player that Pochettino likes and trusts and wants to use at the very least in certain situations and has the familiarity with. It seems like he is now like safely in that squad, and that leaves essentially one spot open for me. And I tried to. These were my final two ones. It was Reyna or Gozo or Morris or Zendejas. And I think like there's a strong argument that Zendejas and Gozo bring things we do not have and are in exceptional form compared to some of the other players. But that felt too much like I want a shiny new thing. I want to spring a surprise. I want this to be something else other than what it will be. And what I think it will be is largely players we've seen Pochettino already kind of show a preference for.
I mean, that's where the smart money is. And the truth here is I put my 26 players down on my Google Doc and went, this is a little bit boring. This is a little bit safe. And I felt I needed to shake things up a little bit. However, and this is purely anecdotal, right? I always feel with World Cup squads, because it's a 26-man squad, and in other windows you're not picking 26, or normally you're not picking 26 players for other windows. So that gives you a little bit more leeway. And I just always feel with World Cup squads, there's one. There's just always one. And we've seen it in the past for the US with Julian Green and other call-ups. Scotland had one yesterday with like teenage Finlay Curtis being called up. And I do not think it is beyond Poch to hand a call-up to a wild card. And if he does that, I think the best chance is Xavier Gozo.
Had Finlay Curtis represented Scotland before?
In a friendly at the game I went to in Liverpool against Everton, and he was fine for 30 minutes. You can't really make a logical case for him. In the same way you can't really make a logical case for Gozo over Brendan Aronson.
No, but you can. That's what I'm trying to say, though, is you can make a logical case for it. Taylor, I do understand your point now. Thank you. I wasn't in step, and now I'm with it. I think you are fighting against some current to bring someone who's never been in before, but Gozo will do something different on the soccer field for the U.S. this summer. Part of that different thing might be looking overawed, and maybe that's where you're coming at, Ryan, which is totally logical. But part of that could also be, I don't know, beating a guy 1v1, which I think literally only Serginho Dest and Pulisic and this entire group of players can actually do on a semi-reliable basis. Gozo brings a different skill set. And it's a skill set the U.S. could need in a group stage against teams that don't want to have the ball. And, how would I design a team to defend against the U.S.? I'd probably give them the ball, which is exactly what Paraguay is going to do, exactly what Australia is going to do, and exactly what Turkey is going to do. I don't know, man. Like, I think if you're Pochettino, and I know he's definitely seen Xavier Gozo, his coaching staff has seen Xavier Gozo, and you see what this kid is doing in MLS, you got to have a think about it at the very least, and I'm sure they have. How long that think has been, anybody's guess.
You should try and sort of project forward 6 months, and as difficult as that would be, or that will be, is Poch in 6 months going to, if he leaves Gozo out and he's at Aston Villa next season and doing bits, even if it's off the bench for Aston Villa or Atletico Madrid, is he going to think back to his World Cup squad and go, that was a little bit silly, should have had Xavier Gozo because he's just a good soccer player. It doesn't matter where he's playing that soccer. So I totally agree, and I would love to see Xavier Gozo on this roster. As harsh as that would be on Brendo, who's coming off the best season of his career, but that's just the way it goes sometimes.
Well, it's weird because there actually is kind of there's a lot of depth in this attacking kind of area where I don't have Zendejas on my roster, I don't have Jack McGlynn on my roster. Both of those guys could play in these roles. I don't have Gozo in my predicted roster. All those guys you can make a case for. You can absolutely make a case for all of those players. And once you get past Pulisic and McKennie and maybe Tillman in the half spaces, and Reyna's kind of in its own category, it's just a lot of mush. Like, do you want to see Luna here? Do you want to see Aronson here? Do you want to see Zendejas here? Do you want to see McGlynn here? Maybe Gozo. It's kind of samey, even though those players are very different across the board. There's not one that says, I absolutely have to be here. Like, my play demands that I'm there. And honestly, if someone's going to demand it based on their play, Gozo might be the closest one to doing that in a weird way.
Okay. I think if Gozo's name is read out on the Fox broadcast next Tuesday, I will consume my hat, frankly.
Let's go.
I'll react like those.
I'll be very shocked.
I hope that hat is made of edible material.
For real.
Yeah. I'll react like those Neymar fans.
Right. I'll put the odds at 40% for you. I think there's a 40% chance you eat your hat.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I'll take those odds. I just think that that's just a massive risk. I understand the arguments being made for it, but to play a player who hasn't been in the squad before, yes, you'll have, of course, the Continental Classico presented by Allstate coming up to play in naturally. But that just feels like there's a level of accountability for US soccer. They'd say, well, why is he here if he's not been here before? That feels weird.
So can I ask you, Ryan? I know we've gone long here. I think you're saying things that make sense to me. I just want to flesh it out a little bit more. What would you be so worried about? So let's say Xavier Gozo gets called up. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to play a second at the World Cup. There would be maybe some potential things that could happen if he were to play, or even some byproducts of him being in camp. But what has you thinking this would be such an unwise thing to do?
I think in the post-mortem of the World Cup, they would say, why did this guy go when you left a guy who's had a really good Premier League season at home? And there's, as I say, just a level of accountability to it. And I don't know. I'm not going to say it's a lack of diligence, but it just feels like a throw of the dice when it doesn't need to be a dice thrown. That would be my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, I would disagree, but I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Poch likes to throw the dice. Miljevic, come on down.
All right. We'll take one more quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the strikers, and we're going to throw out a few questions to finish up. Join us then. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to USMNT Weekly. Let's finish up our predictions for the 26-player roster with the striker pool. Taylor, how simple is this as an exercise?
I bet we have the same three. Sorry to jump in.
I think we might.
Well, joke's on you because I've got 5.
Wow, okay.
But my 5 included, I think they'll list them as forwards, and I think Pulisic and Wea will be in there, so that's where I had them. Balogun, Pepe, Haji Wright.
Yep, that's the 3. I think it's funny how coming into 2022, this seemed like the big talking point was how things were going to shake out for the next World Cup with the striker pool. And we've ended here where not only do I think, I guess you could argue between 2 and 3, between Wright and Pepe, but Balogun is just so clearly ahead of the other two that there's not even much of a debate there. Like Balogun, barring injury or something else, will start, I think, pretty much every game the US plays at this World Cup. And not so long ago, that didn't feel like it was settled as a debate.
Yep. R.I.P. Big Pat. I think he would have been here, but he's not. So this was easy.
Okay. So
he is still alive, though. Just to be clear.
My bad. Yep. I meant to say R.I.P. Big Pat's Achilles, and I forgot the last bit.
Very good. Thank you for the clarity there, Joe. Okay, so holistically stepping back Taylor, assuming we've had general consensus here, I suppose in the final third of the field, there's some questions, maybe some potential slots that may be up in the air. But looking generally at the 26 we've discussed or thereabouts, how's that feel, Taylor? Feeling good?
It feels fine. I think because there are 26 instead of 23, it feels like there are fewer players being cut because there are. But I think a lot of the time, it's those final couple players that do end up being the talking points. Like Brian Ching or Taylor Twellman. That's a throwback. But like, they're probably not going to see the field, and if they do, it's going to be very limited minutes or in very specific situations. But when you have the expansion to 26, you don't have those 3 players cut. When you have a few players, not even key players necessarily, but a few players injured, like we do with Cardoso and Big Pat, like that list gets even smaller, the pool gets even tighter, and then I think other players have played their way out of contention or are kind of on the outside looking in because of past performances or because they haven't kind of achieved a level where it's merited inclusion. I think I'm concerned a little bit about the attack. I think, like, I really love Weston McKennie. I think he's maybe in the best form of any U.S. player right now. But, you know, can he create on the stage that we need him to? Can he be an individual creator? Can he help, like, spring attacks? I think he can. But that's certainly not going to be Tyler Adams' bag or anybody playing alongside him. Pulisic has had a rough season up and down. Luna, returning from injury, is very good, but, you know, we don't really know what his, like, ceiling is yet. Gio Reyna is Gio Reyna. Brendan Aronson is Brendan Aronson. Not to use that way of discussing players, but at this point we've discussed them enough that I think that makes sense. So that's where the appeal of Gozo and Zendejas came in for me, because Zendejas is in insane form in Mexico right now. He actually might be the best form of any U.S. player, scoring goals left and right for Club America as their season came to an end, getting assists. He's playing in a front two in a 3-5-2. He's also playing out wide on the right, out wide on the left. He can bring a lot of variety to the attack, but he's one who, like, to an even like lesser degree than Johnny Cardoso, never felt like he really like cemented a place in the team, never really felt like he was key to Poch's plans or one that Poch was really like keeping an eye on as things went forward. It felt like he's kind of fallen by the wayside. So in the end, it feels like a lot of the players we thought would be there. I don't know how many surprises there will be. I expect there will still be some consternation and frustration with some of these decisions, but overall, I think it's about as strong as the team as could be assembled.
Okay. And Graham, as for like, is there a Neymar moment that we'll get in this broadcast where there's someone sitting with their hands like Lenny in The Simpsons, pensively waiting for their name? Is that Gio, I suppose?
I just think Gio's going to be there. I think this has moved on to Gozo, and maybe that's just media hype, to Taylor's point, because I know there are a few high-profile journalists out there who have written articles saying they would have him in or debating whether he should be in there. So I don't know whether Poch is, if that's on his radar at all. I don't have an insight to that. But Gozo feels like the one where there might be the most excitement around. I was trying to work out, just as you were talking, Taylor and Ryan, who are the omissions from my squads, and whether that made me feel any worse about my selections if I've done a silly. And my three are Scally, Robinson, and Aronson, and I've already debated the Aronson one being left out for Gozo. With the exception of Aronson, like, I feel fine about Joe Scally and Miles Robinson not being in this roster, because if they're in the roster, then I'm knocking out someone who I feel worse about them not being there. So I don't think there is a Neymar. It doesn't feel like there's a Landon Donovan, to draw a US comparison. I feel like this group, particularly with Johnny and Big Pat getting injured and not being available for the tournament, this group is kind of settled over the last few windows, where I don't think there'll be a huge amount of debate.
And Joe, excuse my ignorance on this one, but if there is a Berhalter in the squad and also a Reyna in the squad, is there any vibe culture issues there, do we think?
It seems like that's been pushed past, because those guys have been in camp together since then. Even Greg Berhalter had Gio Reyna in camp, right? So I don't know what that's like. I'm not there to feel that or to be in the midst of it, but I would imagine that the vibes will be able to survive those folks being in the same room. We might not be getting any Seb Berhalter, Gio Reyna TikTok dances. Like, hopefully we'll get some Aiden Morris Seb Berhalter TikTok dances like we did back in the day when they were both at the Crew together. But I don't know. I think it should probably be fine on that front.
The Premier League's Aiden Morris. We should probably start calling him relatively soon.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Shout out Spygate.
That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. Indeed. All right, there we go. That is our predictions for what we think Maurizio Pochettino will do next week when the USMNT roster drops. If you want to chat about it with us, we've got a Patreon, we've got a Discord. It's very fun in there. Do join us if you want to. There is a link in the show notes if you are so inclined. But for now, Taylor Rockwell, thank you very much for your expertise. As always, my good man.
My pleasure, and thank you, my good man.
Graham Ruthven, you did that switheringly as always. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan Bailey.
And Joe Lowery, a pleasure as always, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we only had one. Was it just the Gozo Aronson thing? That was the only thing, and maybe Robinson Trusty. I don't think I missed any other differences that we had across the board. I'm ready for us all to be very right or very wrong.
Here we go. Will any of us look like a bozo for selecting Gozo? We will find out next week. But for now, listener, thank you for joining us on the feed. We'll be back very shortly. But for now, bye!